Hey F1 fans, welcome to the video. Going to be discussing the opening round of the F1 2012 season in Australia in March the 16th, 17th, 18th or so. So pretty soon. The wait is almost over after 3 months or so since the season 2011 ended. A season which felt like it ended a long time ago because the points for both the Drivers' and Constructors' Championships were wrapped up rather early. So I'm sure a lot of people, including the drivers, are eagerly anticipating another chance to strive for the championship. It's another bite of the cherry. A lot of money's gone in, a lot of time. We've had 3 solid months of developing new cars and testing and driver changes, so a lot of that's been very interesting. It seems to have been an off-season of a lot of driver changes, but mostly through the midfield and rear of the grid anyway. So the driver changes are rather inconsequential though, because I don't see any new drivers appearing in cars which can compete for the championship. But we haven't actually seen any racing yet, so maybe too early to say, we don't know. But throughout the top 4 or 5 teams, the driver lineup is pretty much the same. Of course, the latest Renault lineup looks, for me, the most exciting. You've got Kimi Räikkönen coming back, making 6 World Driving Championship winning drivers on the grid. 2007 champ. I'm not entirely sure how the deal came about. He's been doing a lot of rallying and NASCAR over the last couple of years, and finally a good opportunity came about. Róbka Kubica hasn't been able to return successfully, at least yet. But looking at a very strong lineup with Grosjean coming back to F1 after his 2009 debut. 5 or so races, part of the Alonso, which didn't particularly go that well, but I followed him throughout the GP2 series last year and rather dominated, and I think he'll be back faring pretty strongly. I don't expect him to beat Raikkonen, but it's a strong and interesting looking lineup. But beyond that, you're looking at the top teams being Red Bull again. McLaren will definitely be up there competing. The Mercedes team looks very strong, and lots of reports around the internet that they are certainly ones to look out for. And you can never really discount Ferrari, but the car hasn't looked terribly competitive during the off-season. There have been quite negative reports and reviews of the car. It doesn't look particularly cool, in fact rather ugly, so not terribly high hopes for the Ferrari. However, they always come back, they've got a big budget, and I'm sure they're working very hard on it. And just who knows until the wheels turned fully in race mode. So now I'm going to give you a rundown of my predictions regarding the first race of the season. No real data to go on yet. I'm only really shadowing last year's events. I don't think much will have changed. Sure, the regulations will be slightly different. There's less exhaust influence, so we're led to believe. So, I don't know. I don't think much will change. Red Bull will definitely be up there. I can't see anybody else winning the championship beyond Vettel. I think he'll get off to a screaming start and win, and I think he'll rather dominate the race. History tells us that the winner of the first race of the season usually goes on to win the championship. Don't know, it's an odd statistic. Practically every single year, certainly the last few, winner of the first race goes on to win the championship eventually. But it's not completely illogical, because the best car at the start usually means the best at the end. So when I give you details of what I believe to be the winner of the first race, also means winner of the championship. That's really what we're going with. It's got to be Vettel. He's had a, I don't know, an off season which seems to have been quite fun for him. It doesn't seem to have been too much hard work. He seems to have appeared at more celebrity bash events and seems to have been very relaxed during testing, very confident. Champions with Michael Schumacher, so he's in good form, I think. But the Red Bull in testing hasn't really blown me away. But I think they've been sandbagging them rather, coasting around. I think they'll be blemish free. And such is the reliability these days that I can't see any problems for them. So Vettel for the win, also pole position. He'll be fastest. He's got a very good pole position to race record. He just seems sublime at the moment, on a very much winning run. The team's behind him, very much staking his claim for a third Drivers' Championship in a row very early on, with a win here. Bringing up the rear will be his teammate Mark Webber. I think he'll be on for a solid second place. Mark Webber, being Australian, home Grand Prix for him. Typically he doesn't score very well in Australia. He seems to, I don't know, get too fired up. It seems to mean too much for him. He always has very bad luck as well. His best result being a 5th place, which he had in 2011 and 2002 his debut. So I don't know. I think it's time Mark Webber had a better result. Pressure on Mark Webber, yes, absolutely. It could be his last year at Red Bull. And indeed in a top team, and by default he's also sort of given a good impression of, I don't really fancy driving for a team that isn't going to be competing at the front, so this could indeed be one of his last years, if not his last year in Formula 1, so there's a bit of pressure there. He was very well and truly beaten by his teammate Vettel last year, and there's increasing competition for his race drive if he doesn't perform from halfway through the year or something, so yeah, he's got a lot to work for, but it's a clean start for him. I'm sure his mind will be refreshed, and we know what he's capable. If you remember the 2010 season, very much worthy contender for the championship back then. So who knows if he can qualify a little bit better and get into Vettel's head, then I'm sure it could all swing around. But Mark Webber making a Red Bull 1-2 to kick off the season. 3rd and 4th. Tough one. Lewis is going to be back, got his head a bit more in the game. Strong start to him. He'll be very much a contender throughout the season, I think. Always pretty solid in Melbourne, he's won before. Usually gets a good start to each championship season. And I think he'll be firing on all cylinders out of the box. Expecting to out-qualify Jenson in qualifying. And I don't see too much competition, but I think he will be some way back from the Red Bull, so he'll be dominating, unfortunately. 4th place, I've got Massa. I think he'll have, again, similar to Webber, a fresh start, fresh attitude. Could end up beating Alonso. Expectations pretty low, although there is great competition for his race seat, so pressure high, expectations low. But he could surprise us all, and certainly in the first few races I expect him to deliver much better than he did at the end of last season. Jenson 5th, very solid. Won in Melbourne in the past. Hot off the tails of a great last season. Beating Hamilton, greatest challenge to Red Bull at the front, so another solid season for Jenson. I don't see him winning the championship, but it's a long way to go. I think I'll get some very solid points and be in the thick of the action during the race. Then I've got Rosberg leading the Mercedes charge, who I think will be, all the signs seem to suggest a greater threat towards the front. But Rosberg, they haven't had a podium in over a year, so it'll be tough for them. I think they'll get to 6th place. That's sort of where they have in the past belonged. and I think unless other drivers drop out or there's a crash at the start, I don't think they'll trouble the ultimate front runners, but they'll be a very solid and clear 6th or so place. 7th, I'm going to pluck for Raikkonen. His fresh return, there'll be a lot of expectation. The Lotus has been very quick in testing, but maybe they're flattered to deceive, and they've done a lot of low fuel mileage, and maybe there are also some mechanical gremlins and issues. We don't really know. They're the unknown quantity in this whole equation, I think. But I'm not going to get too carried away. They could be very good and snatch a podium like last year, but I'm pitting Raikkonen to do the best for Lotus and get a good 7th place. I'm going to go with Alonso. I think he'll be involved in a first corner crash, like in 2010. Hasn't had a very good Melbourne for a few years. Seems like a long time. I think he'll be outperformed by Massa, and I don't know where that Ferrari is right now, and I just expect him to have some misfortune, so I'm just building in some misfortune for him, but netting a couple of points, bringing it home. Then Michael Schumacher in 9th place. He will be again for the third in a row, noticeably beaten by Rosberg, even if the car is improved. He stays out of trouble. He'll be fine. He'll just bring it home. Good old experienced head. Keep out of too much trouble. Out of the mess. Pick up solid 9th and 10th. Force India have looked, well, it's been hard to judge. They have at times looked very impressive and fast, but at others distinctly average. Difficult to work out. They were on an upward curve from last year, always developing the car and increasingly getting more points. 6th last year. They're on the move. They're looking quite good. Hülkenberg's back in F1, full-time basis. I expect him to pick up the last point for Force India. Fastest lap, probably Mark Webber. Red Bull, fastest car in my predictions. Mark, notoriously good at getting fast laps. Won the DHL Fastest Lap Award last year. And I could just imagine being a home race for Mark Webber. He'll be pretty fired up, and whether he uses his tyres too much, we don't know. Certainly a factor, but at some point in the race I think he'll be the fastest car and get the fastest lap. There's still a few days to go, and haven't really got too much to go on other than last season. Weather looks typically quite good. March in Melbourne. I think there's a 20% chance of rain on race day, so that could be interesting, but actually I would prefer a dry race. I am quite keen to find out who is where accurately on the grid, and rain would shake things up too much. There's already enough interest and intrigue. Perhaps rain in the 2nd or 3rd race, but it's looking quite good. Actually, because I'm in Japan, in terms of having to get it really early to watch the race or anything like that, that shouldn't be a problem. Almost the same time difference to Australia, so that's going to be quite good. A handful of days to go. Can't wait till practice 1 and we get into things, and yeah, I'm pretty sure my predictions will be quite accurate. Hopefully I'll do predictions for each race, and within that a sort of a look back onto my last week's predictions. Quick review how accurate I was. I fancy my chances of being quite accurate on this one. Often my predictions might be a little bit dull, but I don't think too much will have changed from last year, but that's no bad thing. The best drivers are in the best cars, and they ought to be at the front. Logic dictates that this will happen, so still a lot to look out for. We've got some very interesting Pirelli tyres, the DRS is in play, World Champions, it's all shaping up pretty well. And yeah, just counting down the days, 5 days to go. And hopefully you'll be watching as well. So thanks for watching my video at least, and there'll be plenty more to come in the future. See you later.